Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at personal combat in Traveler. This is part 5 of my campaign tips. Personal combat in Traveler can be a little tricky. I thought I'd just go over the nuts and bolts of it to show how I do it, and a couple of house rules I've thrown in here and there. Primarily everything's going to come out of the 2022 core rulebook update. And like I said, there might be a house rule thrown in here or there. Also going to show how initiative is determined, and that's where one of my house rules is going to come in. I also want to remind you I'm doing a push for subscribers. I'm pushing to that magical 1,000. So if you have the opportunity and you can subscribe, that would be fantastic. Over half my views come from people who haven't made the commitment to subscribe. So if you can do that, I would appreciate it. So today on page 121, personal combat in Traveler. Personal combat in Traveler. Now, personal combat would refer to firing with firearms of some kind or in melee. I'm going to do an example at the end of the video of how a firearm combat would go. And the rules are the same whether it's a firearm or melee. I just find the firearm a little more interesting. So basically, the way Traveler combat works is the very first thing we have to do is, well, they have initiative as the very first thing you do, but you actually should have surprise first, in my opinion, because the ambush negates initiative. If you have the drop on somebody, you get to fire before they get to react. But I'll stay with how it is here. So my hero character is going to have a 9 dexterity, which gives him a +1 bonus for his roll on his initiative. So I'm going to roll my initiative right here. I rolled an 8, and that's my target number, and my +1 is a 9. Now I look on the effect table. I succeeded by +1 on the effect table. So right now I've got a +1 initiative. Here's my bad guy. I have 2 bad guys. They both have dexterity of 7, so no benefits there. So it's just a raw roll for them. They're rolling 9, and the target number is a 9. They succeeded by +1. We tie. I've run the Mongoose Traveler initiative system a few times now, and I find that it's actually just a little bit better to go ahead and, rather than look at the effect of the roll, just take the roll. So I'll do it again. Here's my player character with his dexterity of 9, +1 is his bonus. He's got a 4 equals a 5. So for an effect, that would be a -3 save. So he's -3 on his effect. The bad guys throw an 11. They are +3 on their effect. They go first. It ends up being the same difference. So what I've started doing is just having the players throw 2d6, and then we go based on that. I don't even bother checking the effect table anymore. I'm just throwing 2d6. You get modifiers for any appropriate skills or dexterity or intelligence, depending on which is higher for you. And then whatever order the roll comes in is where you go ahead and start your combat round. I've just found in play that it ends up actually with less ties than on the effect table, and just the raw rolls my players get intuitively. There's no real confusion, no looking at a chart for anything. Boom, it's done. So I've started doing initiative that way. One interesting thing that I love about Mongoose Traveler is the initiative system. You can use your dexterity if you have a superior dexterity, say of a 9, where you get a +1 effect for that, but maybe you've got a 12 intellect. Well, your brain can tell you when you're in trouble too. So with the 12 intellect, he would get a bonus of +2. So in that case, he'd say, hey, I'll use my intelligence for my initiative check over my dexterity. I like that a lot, that intelligence does play a role in combat in Traveler. I really enjoy that. And then you can do opposing forces where you just roll 1 dex or intellect check for each side. I've never been a fan of that. Ambushes, you have to determine if the one side is surprised over the other. And then we go into tactics. You may make a tactic check at the start of a combat. The effect of this check is applied to the initiative, everyone on the same side. So I have a guy that has tactics 2. He goes ahead and he throws, that's a bad example. There we go. He throws a 9 + 2 is 11. I check on the effect chart, and I see that 11 effect is 3 over what I needed. So that's an average success. So now everybody gets to add the effect of this check to the initiative, so that's a +1 for the initiative for the rest of that combat. It's an interesting thing. I haven't decided. I haven't used it yet because none of my players have had tactics, nor have any of my bad guys. I haven't decided if I'm going to use that or not. And then we come down to the maps. I use tabletop figures whenever I game, of course. There's my traveler person. So I do use it, and the traveler scale is 1.5 meters per map, or hex for personal combat. Most combatants begin at medium range. That depends on your situation. They're not necessarily at medium range. So we go to the combat round. Each combat round is 6 seconds. In each combat round, you may perform a minor action and a significant action. Travelers take these actions in initiative order, starting with those who rolled the highest initiative attack check. If 2 or more travelers are acting in the same initiative order, the one with the highest dex score will go first. If they're still tied, they will act simultaneously. I am actually doing that on the initiative just with the 2 dice, and if they tie, then the one with highest dex gets to go first. Once the traveler's turn to act, they may take both their minor and significant actions at the same time before play moves on to another traveler. I like that too. It's not like you're being penalized. I'm going to do a minor action. Oh, I get a combat action. I shoot you. You get to do both before the next guy acts. Nice little action summary chart here. And once every traveler has had a chance to act in the combat round, it's over, and a new combat round begins. Rinse, repeat, till somebody wins them all. A significant action. You get to perform one of these. That is most commonly an attack, whether a melee or a ranged attack. And then leadership is something that comes in combat when you're passing orders and commands. This would be a larger combat. I don't know that I would let leadership affect a small combat. Again, I don't have anybody with any kind of leadership skills, so it hasn't come up in my game yet. I'm probably not going to do much with this. It works very similar to how tactics works. You check the effect, and then you get to add that as a bonus. I haven't used it yet. I don't know if I'm going to be using it. Then you get to perform a minor action, and this can be before or after your significant action. And you can perform 2 minor actions in place of a significant action. So you get 3 minor actions in a combat round. That's pretty neat too. The 2 from your significant action plus the minor action they receive for every round anyway. So minor actions can be aiming your gun. In the game I ran the other day, the player took his minor action. He aimed his gun. He wanted that +1. It was a difficult shot. You can change your stance, draw, reload. The guys were reloading during the combat. You can move. You can move the number of meters up to their movement score. For humans, most humanoid travelers, this is 6 meters for each minor action. So you could move 18 meters total in a combat round if you forego an attack. That's pretty neat. Even if you do attack, you can still move 6 meters. That's pretty good. So let's see. Miscellaneous. If you wanted to spot a good sniping position, identify equipment being used by the enemy, picking something off the ground, and then you have free actions such as hitting that elevator button, yelling a warning, any kind of thing like that. And then you have extended actions, which can be some skills that you would try to check, trying to fix an engine during the firefight. That would be an extended action where you can try to do your skills. That I would let that be more of a situational thing rather than actually work a rule on it. In other words, if somebody's under fire and they're trying to fix the air raft's engine, the air raft's engine's damaged, it's only going half speed, they need to be fixed so they can speed it up. I'm going to give them either a die mod bonus or maybe even a Bane dice to repair that, and I'm going to cost them a few actions to try it. So that's just how I'm doing it. And then we have reactions. When you're about to be attacked, you can react either by dodging a shot or parrying a blow. Dodging, you give a penalty equal to your dex die modifier or athletics, whichever is higher. So my hero has a 9 dexterity, his modifier is a +1. If he says, I'm going to dodge, that adds a -1 for their roll to hit. So if they need the 8 to hit, and he's going to say, I'm going to dodge, so now they need a 9. There we go. They rolled a 4, they missed him. He dodged. Now, he's dodging, which means he's done for the round, but at least he's gotten out of the way. Diving for cover works much the same, except you're actually throwing yourself to the ground or behind some cover. So you're actually moving a little bit. You can dive within 1.5 meters of your current position. Parrying, you can parry a shot. Basically, it's an opposed check. You can do it as a reaction. And then we go to melee attacks. Melee is within 2 meters of an enemy, and they're said to be in close combat. At this very short range, certain rules apply. And then we come down to the weapons. So we're going to take a look at the weapons and the damage they inflict. I'm also going to show this in the combat example I'm going to do. So basically, for your weapon, you're going to fire your weapon, and you're going to hit your target. So I've hit my target, and I'm firing my Gauss pistol. I get 3 dice 6 damage. In this case, it would be a 6, a 4, and a 3 for 13 damage. He is wearing Tech Level 7 cloth armor, which has a +5 protection rating. I'm going to take 5 away from this, as his armor will absorb 5 points of damage. So instead of 13, my net is going to be 8 points of damage. So I've inflicted 8 points of damage. In Traveler, that's significant, by the way, because your damage is going to come off of your statistics. Let's get to taking damage. It's kind of strange that taking damage isn't right here with the combat. But as I take damage, damage roll for the effect of the attack is roll added to the total. Damage is initially applied to your endurance. If a target is reduced to 0 endurance, then any excess damage is deducted from either your strength or your dex. That's your choice as the one who owns the player. If either strength or dex are reduced to 0, the traveler becomes unconscious, and any further damage is deducted from the remaining physical characteristic. If all 3 characteristics are reduced to 0, you've been killed. That's kind of neat. It does make firefights very dangerous in Traveler. You also suffer the negative effects for low endurance when you've taken some damage. I like the rule from, I believe this is from Cepheus, although I could be mistaken, but I believe it's from Cepheus, where anything over the initial, the damage to the stat is dropped on the first hit. So in other words, I've done, in my case, it was 13 minus 5 for the target's armor. He's taken 8 damage. My NPC, bad guy, only has 7 endurance. He would lose all 7 endurance, but rather than have the one remaining slop over to dex or strength, I would go ahead and just drop that one as lost. And this keeps a character from being creamed. If I were to have thrown, 3 6s, 18, he's still got his 5, minus 5, that's 13 damage. For this poor guy, that would be all of his endurance gone and 1 point left, for instance, in his strength. That would leave him 1 point in strength before he's unconscious, and then 7 points in dexterity before he's dead. I like the idea of the initial wound, it's dropped. After the initial wound, it would slop over. I just like it so you're not devastated in one lucky hit at the beginning of a combat, mostly for my players. So that's really how attacks and damage work. Melee attacks work the exact same way. I'm going to do a sample now of a firefight, and this is going to be based on something that happened in my last Traveler game that I ran. It's not going to be multiple player characters. I'm going to have 1 player character versus 2 NPCs. I'm going to do the setup now and explain what I'll be doing. All right, first my handy dandy sheet. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this if you can read my chicken scratch. This is actually a sheet that I did use in the game. When I'm at the table and I'm just kind of whipping a combat up, the players did something unexpected. What a shock, right? Players never do that. I go ahead and I have something like this kind of ready that I can default to. So in this case, my NPCs generally will just have 7s across the board for the physical stats. The situation that they were in, these guys only had access to Jack armor, which is +1 protection. They had a body pistol at Tech Level 8 for 2 die damage. My hero had Tech Level 7 cloth armor at +5 protection, a Gauss pistol at 3 die 6 damage. He also has AP -2 and Burst 2. I'm going to show both of those. So let me put AP -2. I forgot to write this on here. I did credit him during the game for AP -2 and Burst 2. So my hero has an 8 strength, a 9 dex, and a 10 endurance. Player characters usually end up with superior statistics. So this is what I'm going to be basing the combat on. Now I'm going to set up the little scenario, and we're going to go forward with the dice rolls, and I'll let the dice fall as they may on this. However it comes out, it comes out. But you're going to see that the hero has significant advantages over the NPCs. The NPCs, on the other hand, have 2 people. So here we go for the actual combat. Okay, here's my encounter. One thing I didn't talk about was range, and I'm going to delve into that a little bit too. So we're going to touch on range right here. My hero is this young lady in her spiffy pink cloth armor, custom dyed, no doubt, for her. And my 2 bad guys are my Han Solo wannabe and this person with the little pistol, little phaser looking thing with the beehive hairdo. I love that hairdo. These are all Grenadier Traveler figures. I've shown them in videos before. And the terrain is my beautiful Tinker Turf that I've gotten. I've recently made a little addition to that set, so I'll feature that in a future Traveler video. So, or maybe even Champions. Basically, what I've got to do first is they know each other is there, and I'm going to determine initiative. So I'm going to do initiative separate for both of my NPCs and for my hero. So I'll do my hero first. She gets a +1 to this due to her high dexterity. She rolls an 11 +1. She's got a 12. Again, I would check the effect chart, but I'm not going to because I'm just going to go by the rolls. So she's sitting on a 12 right now. This NPC has a 6, and this NPC has a 4. So she will fire first, and then they will fire. Now, for ranges, she's actually close range with her Gauss pistol, so she got an additional +1 to hit. She has pistol 2, and her 1 for dexterity. She's +3 to hit. So her target number is an 8, +3, +1 for range is 4. So she's +4 on this shot. She will take the shot. She rolled a 7. 7 + 4 is 11. Her effect is pretty solid. She is 3 over, so it's an ordinary success. There is an option where you can add in the success rate for the damage. In fact, you're supposed to for Traveler. I've dropped that rule. I found it another chart I had to look at during combat. It's usually only +1 damage. It really doesn't make enough of a difference, so I dropped that rule. So she's fired and struck with her 7 plus her 4 total, so she's struck with an 11. She's going to inflict damage, I'll say, on this individual. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because this guy's got the lower initiative. 1, 2, 3. On that person, she's inflicting 3 dice. Oh, that was a nice fat roll. Now, she's wearing Jack armor, which is +1, so ordinarily I'd take 1 out of this. But my Gauss pistol is AP 2. I subtract 2 points of protection from the armor. 2 minus 1 leaves 1 left. That's just lost. So they get no protection for their Jack armor against this. This person has been struck for 14 points of damage. Because the NPCs have a 7 strength, dex, and endurance, that would mean that she's just lost all of her endurance and all of her dexterity. I'm playing by the mongoose rule where it would all slop over. So now she has to check to see if she even stays conscious. That's a pretty vicious hit. And to stay conscious, no. She blew her endurance check, which would have been an 8. She is unconscious. She's down immediately in the combat. This guy will get his shot back. This guy has some disadvantages going right now. For one, his target's undercover. So that's going to add +2 to the difficulty. And he's at medium range, which adds +1. So his 8 base, he has no other skill modifiers. I'm adding 2 for the cover becomes 10. 1 for the range becomes 11. He has to roll an 11 or greater. He rolls a 5. He missed. Okay, end of combat round. New round. This guy says the heck with this. For his... Oh, well, let's do initiative first. I've got to do that. I didn't do the lesser action. Let me do that. So my initiative over here is a 4 + 1 + 1 for my dexterity is a 5, or becomes a 6. And this gentleman rolled an 8. He won the initiative. So his first lesser action is going to be to run for cover. He's not going to dive for cover, but he is going to run behind it. And then he's going to take his shot. So he's just improved his lot in life a little bit. He'll take his shot, which is an 8, but he is a modifier of -1 because he's still at range, and my target is still under cover. That's 2 more. So he would have needed to roll an 8, but he would have been -1 and -2, so a total of -3. So this 8 becomes a 5. So he missed. She's going to take her shot. Now her target, she's got to reload. Her clip was low. So that'll be her lesser action, will be to reload. And then her significant action will be to shoot at him. He's behind the beam now, so her shot just became more difficult. He gets +2 for his cover. So her shot will be, she's targeting for an 8. She's +1 for her dexterity, -2 for that. So here we go. She rolls a 6. I'm sorry, +3 for her skill with 2 for the pistol. 1 for dexterity becomes a 9. -2 because he's in cover becomes a 7. Her target was an 8. She missed. That's really how combat goes. I'll finish this one so we all see how it comes out, because I'm sure we're all on pins and needles about it. We're going to go ahead and do another initiative. I'll do the player character. At a 9 becomes a 10. And initiative Snake Eyes becomes Snake Eyes. Stay Snake Eyes for this guy. That was a bad roll for him. She gets to go first. She says, you know what? For my significant action, I'm going to come out of cover and I'm going to run up. And I'm going to try to change. I'm going to go around here and try to change my angle. It's not enough to change the angle, but it's a good move. So she gets no penalty for running or anything. So she'll be +2 for her pistol, +1 for her dexterity, -2 for that. So she needs an 8. This roll plus a nat 1. 4 +3 +1 or +3 is a 7. -2 becomes a 5. That's a miss. He's going to fire at her. She's broken cover. He's still at medium range, so he's still a -1 on this. So he'll have to roll an 8, and then the -1, he'll have to roll a 9. Missed. Okay. She says, the heck with this. I'm going up, and I'm gonna take away the angle, and I'm gonna fire on him. I'll keep her in the shot. There we go. He, for his part, just stays where he is and fires. So now I've taken the cover out. Let's go initiative. Our young lady here is 7 +1 for dexterity is an 8, and our villainous NPC is a 6 with no modifiers, so he will go second. As I said, I find this much simpler than worrying about the effect, and as I said also, I don't worry about the effect of the attack for the damage. The only time I will make an exception to that is if I were to roll boxcars, that's 2 6s, then I would take a look at the effect and say, yeah, okay, you add a little bonus damage to that. By the same token, if you roll Snake Eyes, that's a tremendous failure. We're going to take a look at how bad that failure is. The only time I'm really going to look into effect during combat. I just felt that looking at the effect slowed the combat down. That's just me. I always keep these rules subject to change. If you do something differently or you think I'm way wrong, please comment below. I'd be interested in finding out. But back to our combat at hand. Our young lady is going to fire first, no longer modified. So she is going to be shooting for an 8. And she is +2 for her pistol skill, +1 for her dexterity. Her target number is an 8. She rolled a 6, +2, +1 is a 9. She hit him. She will do her damage, which is 3 die. Again, she is AP 2. He has only got protection 1 armor, so she drops it entirely. He takes 5, 9, 11 points of damage, which will be enough to drop his endurance all the way down. And he'll choose to strip out his dexterity by 4. He'll have 3 left his dexterity. So if you're going to use hit points, this guy's got 10 hit points left before he's gone. So now we go to his shot at her. Boxcars, he hit her, yay! I am going to go ahead and I'll give him in this case, because it's boxcars, and this guy's been taking on a chin the whole game, I'm going to give him a boon dice to his damage. Yes, you can do that. Why not? So boon dice to damage. Ah, terrible. It becomes a 5. A 5, she has armor on that takes away 5. That would be a net 0. Because he threw boxcars, I'm still going to award him 1 point off of her endurance. He has to get something for the boxcars, in my opinion. Okay, we go to our new initiative. Our young lady is throwing a 6 this time. 5 + 1 becomes a 6. And our bad guy threw a 5. She gets to go first. She says nuts to this and just fires at him, trying to drop him. She needs, her target number is an 8, +2 for pistol, +1 for her skill. She rolls a 10, that becomes a 13. This would be a time where effect might come in too, because it's a +5 effect. So you can add damage to it. I feel Traveler Combat's lethal enough without bonus damage for anything other than boxcars, so I'm not going to. So she has struck him. He only has 3 dexterity left and 7 strength. And I rolled massive damage. Again, I'm taking away his jack armor value. So I am going 6, 12, 17. This slays him on the spot. He never even gets to fire his pistol again. That's the end of the combat. I hope you liked it. I hope the example was helpful. If I did anything wrong, please politely let me know. I've explained my stance on effect things. I think effect is a great tool. I just felt as I was using it in combat, it tended to slow things down a little bit as everybody was kind of floundering for what the effect was in addition to the combat. I had the charts, my players didn't. I know I could rectify that by giving them an effect chart, but I just decided that probably I'm not going to bother with effect in combat unless it's, as happened in this one, somebody throws 2 6s or if someone were to throw 2 1s. Other than that, I'm probably going to skip effect entirely. Let me know if you think that's a good move or a bad move. I'm interested in any constructive criticisms. Please be polite. And that's all I've got today for page 121. Hope you enjoyed this lethal example of combat. I realized, by the way, it was tremendously simple. There's no way anybody would be just running up at somebody into a line of fire, regardless of what armor they're wearing. I was simply doing this by way of demonstration. In the real game, the players used the beams under the area for cover, and they broke for cover, from cover to cover, and the combat was a little more protracted because of that, but it ended up being a lot more fun and a little more realistic. In this case, I just wanted to show how the combat ran. So please don't chide me for that. I did that for purposes of the video. So that's all I've got to say today for page 121. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember, I'm doing the big push for subscribers, so if you're on the fence, please hop off on my side of the fence and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.